Hi everybody! Today I'm going to show you how to create a circular 8-section radial design. My students, well, we create radial designs in my class all the time, but my students are currently making 8-section radial designs to use for their stained glass project. So they'll have to create their design before they can then create their stained glass. But of course, you could use this for lots of projects. You could use this drawing process to create a radial design to use for something else. You could simply create this paper radial design and then color it in or something like that. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's get started. Alright, to start this project you're going to need some supplies. Obviously you need a piece of paper and a pencil. I also have a circle that's about as big of a circle as I could fit on this piece of paper. And then you're going to need a Sharpie and some carbon paper. So you can find this if you don't have some at like any office store or online. And you can see mine is really old and worn out, but it works for, this stuff works forever. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your circle, trace it, and cut it out. And even if you have a bumpy cardboard circle like mine, it's imperative that you make it as round and as smooth as possible and cut as close to the line as possible for this project to come out symmetrical. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we're going to take our circle and we need to divide it into eight even sections. So to do that, we are going to start by making 2 equal halves. So obviously you fold this in half to do that. It's really important when you fold this in half, you get one round edge to line up with the other round edge as close to perfectly as possible. So there's 2 halves. Now we need to be able to see those halves pretty easily, so I'm going to go ahead and trace this line. A little trick when you're tracing a line in a fold, don't lay it flat and try to trace in that fold. Stand your fold up, and then you can really easily fit your pencil into that fold and follow it. So next we need to take this from halves to fourths. So I need each half to be cut in half again. Now you can't just fold this over in half because you might not split each side equally. What you really need is you need this line when it's folded over to lay, you need this line to lay on top of itself. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this line and you're going to bring the edge of it to itself, and I can kind of even see it through the back of my paper. So I'm going to match them so that they lay right on top of each other. So when I open it and trace it, now I have 4 equal sections. So the next thing is I need to take my 4 equal sections and I need to cut each of them in half. So I need another half cut that way, another half cut that way. So I'm going to be lining up my lines on top of each other again. So to make my half right there, I'm going to take this part of the line, I'm going to put it on top of here. I'm going to take this part of the line and it's going to go on top of there. So both of these ends are going to come to both of these ends. So you want to make sure that they both line up as close to accurately as possible. And as you're pressing this down, you should see that you're pressing down right on that little corner where your lines converge. So when you open it back up and trace, your new line should go through that same central point. All your lines should be meeting there. Otherwise, your design won't come out symmetrical. Then I need one more half right here, and so again, these 2 go on top of these 2, but now I also have this central line, so I can just bring this end up to there as well. So you can see that all my lines go through that same central point, and I have as close to 8 equal pieces as possible. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on just one piece, and I'm going to draw a design, and that piece I'm going to be able to repeat around to each of my sections. When my students start drawing their designs, I remind them that what makes this radial process look cool is not having a really complicated design in one piece, but instead having a relatively simple design in one section that repeats to 8 different sections. So anything you draw here, you're going to be drawing 8 times, and you're going to be tracing 8 times. So really you're going to be drawing 16 times. So inside this little teeny tiny triangle, you draw, 10 different shapes, you're going to be really drawing 160 shapes. That's too many. Okay, so I suggest doing, a looser, wider, simple but more well thought out design. And part of making it more well thought out is instead of just having a bunch of shapes floating in the middle of this, I encourage students to use lines and shapes that connect one side of your design to the other, and do that in both directions. So this kind of design really creates kind of an overlapping flower looking pattern. You don't have to do a design like this though. You can also have shapes that just exist within this little space as well. So there's my design. So now what I want is I want my design to flip to all of these other triangles. But I'm not just going to go and draw it in all of the other triangles because I'm not perfect, but I want my design to have symmetry, and symmetry is perfect. So to create that symmetry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to use one of the 2 folds that's right next to my design. And I'm going to take it, and instead of folding in like we have been, I'm going to just turn my fold inside out. So don't create a new fold. Make sure you're still folding right along that line that you drew. But just turn inside out, okay? So now I can see my design, and this is where your tracing paper, your carbon paper comes in. So you grab this, you'll see this has a white side and a black side. You always want the black side up because that's the side that has the carbon paper. And I'm gonna set this so that my design is facing me so I can see my design. So this blank side is gonna touch the carbon paper. So whatever part touches the carbon paper with your design on the other side, that's going to essentially push the design through to that empty side. And the way you do that is you take your pencil, and you gotta push kind of hard to do this, but you push down hard and you trace your design. And that pressure from your pencil is pushing down along those lines. So those lines are essentially sticking to the carbon paper a little teeny tiny bit. And then the carbon, that black stuff, is coming off of the carbon paper and sticking to the back of your regular paper. So when you open this up, now you can see that I've recreated this design here, and it's flipped over. It's a mirrored image, but it's exactly the same. And that's what creates that radial symmetry, that repetition all the way around my central point. So now I have 2 sections, and I want these 2 to go to here. So to do that, I need to find the fold that separates these 2 sections from their 2 adjacent sections. So that fold that separates these is right there. So again, I'm going to turn my fold inside out. Now I'm going to set this on the carbon paper and trace both sections. So now my design's on half, and I just need to get to the other half by using that last fold that separates my finished half from my unfinished half. So this time I'm tracing 4 sections of my design. So now you can see that I've used my single design, and it's repeated around the circle 8 times, pretty close to as symmetrically as humanly possible. So it does create that radial symmetry design. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Sharpie to trace my design. But I want my shapes to connect to each other. I don't want these boring straight lines to separate them. So I'm not going to trace any of these lines. I am going to erase them, but I'm going to erase them after I've traced my design, so I don't erase my design. And now that I have the design I want to keep traced, I can just grab an eraser and very quickly erase those straight lines. If you want to keep a section of those straight lines, like if I just wanted to keep those straight lines cutting through this part of my flower or something like that, you totally can. I just personally think that they break up an otherwise connected radial design, especially since we made the effort to have shapes that connect to each side. So for me, they were a means to an end just to help me line up my folds, and now I'm going to erase them. And while you're at it, while you have your eraser out, you can also erase what I call any stray pencil lines. So those are just lines that you meant to trace on, but maybe you just slightly missed. And even the carbon lines somewhat erase, and your pencil lines, any stray pencil lines will definitely erase. All right, well that's it. I hope you really enjoyed creating your radial designs today. From here you can go on to simply color these to have a beautiful design, or you can head over to my next video that shows you how to create a radial stained glass design, like a faux stained glass that you could realistically hang in a window and let light come through, and it can be really beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. Thanks for watching.